Hello in the media division. Today we show you how to recreate the glowing eyes effect from the Blade Runner movie as a practical effect, so exactly like they did in the original. We are going to do so with frugal equipment as well as with more sophisticated setups. We explain the basics as well as tricks and advanced techniques for even better results. Let's do it! Hey and welcome to the media division. Today it's all about making eyes glow, and you might say like, well, there's a million tutorials out there to show how to do it, you know, After Effects, rotoscope the eyes and put an effect on, whatever. But this is not what we're going to do here. What we're going to do is we're going to do a practical effect. That means we are going to create this effect in reality and just film it off, so it is real. I want to go on a little excursus through the history of filmmaking, and there's been a lot of movies that make eyes glow, and just what serves the story, it was more over the top or less over the top, and they used a variety of different techniques. Most of them were post-processing techniques, like for example in Stargate or here in Dune, where they just colored frame by frame every eye of every actor in the movie. That must have been a job that I don't want to do. Anyhow, there are effects that are well done and there are effects that are not so well done. Some are voluntarily funny and some are involuntarily funny. Anyhow, there's one movie that really sticked out for me, and that was Blade Runner. Blade Runner has this very subtle effect of having faintly glowing eyes on the actor, and it's just beautiful. It gives the story so much more meaning to it without doing it in the face. And I always wanted to know how they did that effect, and of course there's a lot of interviews out there with crew members and with Ridley Scott himself who actually explains how it works. But there's nothing better than to actually do it yourself. And that is exactly what we're going to do. We're going to recreate Ridley Scott's effect just like they did in Blade Runner. And it is not as complicated as you might think, and it doesn't incorporate a lot of gear, so you can do it on the cheap if you want to. So let's get right into it, and we're going to start with what you're going to need and what your setup going to be. I'm going to have one simple solution and one more professional one. One thing I want to tell you in advance what you're going to need, and that's a two-way mirror. So it's a mirror that reflects about 50% of the light and lets 50% of the light through. This is something I got out of a teleprompter of mine, and you will see later I broke this one and this is my replacement, but even the broken one works quite nicely. There are cheaper alternatives out there, but maybe you already have this on you, and if not, you will have to buy a little see-through mirror. Some people already tried with just using a glass chart, and that seems to work as well, just not as good. So it's up to you. Maybe you just try it with a little bit of glass. So what you're gonna need is the weapon of your choice. You're gonna need a see-through mirror or a glass chart, but better than a mirror, a light source, and something to block out light, for example, books with a black inlay. Instead of tripods, you can just use a table and put your camera there. Put a book there to use it as a mount on holder for the chart that you put in a 45-degree angle, and put a light source in a 45-degree angle with it and block that light source from your talent. You could, for example, just use an ordinary desk lamp for this, but it is important that the light source itself is not in the direct line of sight of your talent. Just turn it away from view, but make sure that it still reflects in your see-through mirror. And now comes the most important part. If you take the line of sight of your talent, the light source and your lens, the center of your lens, have to be in exactly one line. Ridley Scott in his description talks about a 45-degree positioning between the light, the camera and this mirror. But it doesn't really have to be that way. You're quite free where you're going to place that light, as long as you're going to position the mirror in a way that the light always reflects right into the camera. Of course, that is true even if you would angle it in the room. Actually, the light doesn't have to be on the side of the mirror. it could be also on top or, of course, below it. I'm trying not to break this again. Of course, some good gear makes it much easier. Just put something with rods together on a tripod and take your camera of choice. I take the magnificent EVA 1 and use a bit longer lens. It works better than the wide ones. Now put up some attachments that will help you to fixate the mirror, like I do right here. Do a bit of a 45 degrees angle. Now put something around that will block out the light that you shine in from the side, otherwise you will get reflection in the back and therefore in the lens. Now we're going to attach the exact same desk light that I used before. It's good to have a dimmer on that so you can really give it the right dosage that you need. And again, just like an example we had before, it is very important that the retina of your talent, the light and the lens, are lined up so it can reflect back on the sensor. If you are planning to film in very bright conditions, it might make sense to take a light that has a little bit more punch. Like this, for example, is an aperture light that has a Fresnel. You can focus it on the eye, but you can see that it's quite bright in the mirror and it will cause a lot of spill. Here you can see the amount of spill, and it can be very hard to build that into your grade. So this is more something for longer lenses where your talent sits further from the light source. Of course, if your light source has blinds, you're very welcome to use those to reduce the light right to the eye line of your talent. It is good to try your setup yourself and just put a monitor on a long leash, sit where your talent's gonna sit, and then you get a very good idea on how exactly the mirror has to stand, where exactly the talent has to sit within the frame to have both eyelid, not just one, like in this case. And you can see that if you're in the right position, both eyes will lit in a very nice and intense way without too much spill ruining the rest of your picture. You can change the eye color in camera by using gels on your light. But of course you could just do that in post as well. To keep your light on the rig has the vast advantage that you can use the whole setup as something handheld. The light's position and angle towards the mirror always stays the same. So all you need to do is to get the right angle to your talent. That makes it much, much easier. Now that our setup is fine, we are going to have a little bit of fun with this. So we start with getting a little bit of a Blade Runner noir lighting, backlight mainly, and create a bit of atmosphere. A nice touch for this is a bit of haze. I use an atmospheric spray, but don't kill yourself with it, you know? Again, you can use your monitor on the leash to make sure that you're in the exact same right position and your retina's reflecting. So I changed a little bit about the whole temperature of the light to make it a bit more golden and a projection in the face, which reminds me a bit of Tyrell's office. And again, check, right? You can see exactly where the effect works and where it doesn't, where you walk out of it and where you walk into it. When you're happy with your lighting, it's time to shoot, and I'm going to do so with Cinema DNG, which gives me the ultimate possibility to grade. And we're going to do so in Resolve and throw in a couple of effects, a couple of LUTs, and make it nice and contrasty and black, like a noir deserves. After we done that, we export it, and I took a screen from the original Blade Runner. This is Tyrell's office, and I'm just going to throw that in After Effects on the timeline. And now I'm gonna put my footage on top of that. And we didn't shoot green screen or anything, and we actually want to see the atmosphere that I shot. So I'm just gonna use different settings in transparency to just create an overlay effect that is good enough for a production like this, which is just a trial. As you can see here, I think that works quite well. And here you're going to see the final mix, and I think it's quite convincing. So I hope you found that useful. If you have any question or need some further advice, want to benefit from our experience doing this, you can always give me the question in the comments. And if you like this, please like it and subscribe. I always appreciate any support from you guys. And if you don't subscribe, I'm gonna get very, very angry. I'm just kidding. See you around next time. Bye.